Felix, thank you very, very much. As we discussed earlier in the context of Josh Pitelli's presentation, one of the amazing processes of the 89+ research was to discover this completely new generation of artists in London. We are now going to continue with Felix in conversation, and it's my great, great pleasure to reintroduce Felix, but to also introduce Maja Hoffmann, because we will present the residency which Felix, together with another 89+ artist, Villa Nazatir, had on Doug Aitken's station-to-station train. As we mentioned in the introduction yesterday, it's a very important part of 89+, not only to do events and lectures and books, but also to actually create situations where artists can spend residencies and of course also, as discussed earlier today, grants. Now, the residency was a 2-week residency, and Villa and Felix actually crisscrossed the entire United States. Felix wrote the script that you will find inside the program booklet, whilst Villa Nazatir produced a series of images that we will screen shortly. Maja is a contemporary art collector, a supporter of art, and also a producer of many international art, film, publishing, and environmental projects. She's the founder of the Luma Foundation. It started almost 10 years ago in 2004, whose aim it is to launch and produce cultural and art projects worldwide. Maja is involved in planning one of the most exciting incredible cultural sites in Europe, the Parc des Ateliers in Arles. She's president of the Kunsthalle Zurich, vice president of the council of the Maja Hoffmann Stiftung, and involved in many, many other parallel realities. A very, very warm welcome to Maja Hoffmann and to Felix Melia, and Simon and I will now be in conversation.
Where should I sit? Anyway.
Wherever you like.
Hello.
Yeah, to begin with the beginning, I thought, Maja, it could be great that you tell us a little bit about the Luma Foundation's involvement with emerging artists, because there has been, ever since the Luma Foundation started in 2004, a very long history of supporting emerging talent. There's also the Luma Award, which we started about altogether about 3-4 years ago with the core group of your project in Arles, of the Parc des Ateliers, together with Beatrix Roof, who is here, and Tom Eccles, and Liam Gillick and Philippe Pareno, where young emerging artists were receiving this award.
I don't know. I think the microphone is working. Yes? So I won't need this one then. Yes, the Luma Foundation really likes to work with young artists. We consider that it is part of our mission to continue and to see what, to discover, to go. And of course, I am doing this in a more collaborative and collegial way than many others would maybe do. I prefer to have consultants who really know the scene, and I like to work with different types and groups of people. But the most I work with our core group for Arles, which is really comprising 2 artists and 3 curators. So Hans-Ulrich is part of it, and as Beatrix, who is here. Beatrix Roof, and Tom Eccles, Philippe Pareno, and Liam Gillick being the artists. And we really decided, as you were talking about it now, a few years ago to give out an award. It's been given out 3 times now. The first time was Trisha Donnelly. We gave one to Albert Serra for his movies. So it's not only one type of award for one type of things. And we also gave it out to Helen Martin. We now stopped for the 2 years, for the 2 last years, but we will try to reorganize this and to go further. Now, briefly, shall I speak on how we met, how we came onto the idea for Station to Station? So in parallel, 2 things happened. I was starting to understand a little what the 89+ initiative was, discussing this with Hans-Ulrich and Simon during the last year at several occasions. And at the same time, there was also Doug Aitken preparing his station-to-station trip, which was a gigantic adventure for everybody. And he was offering us to come on the train. But of course, it was very difficult for us, being involved in many other projects, to be able to do it. So the idea popped up that it would be wonderful to invite 2 artists of the young 89 plus generation that would be curated, chosen by Hans-Ulrich and Simon. I was not here this morning, so I'm sure they explained to you how the process goes, how you get presented, how this whole initiative takes place. So we invited Felix, but also Willa Nassatir to come and join. We offered them to join for how long they wanted and to do whatever they wanted to document this trip through other eyes. Doug really liked the idea, so everything was great. I think originally you wanted to go only a few days, but
I
then
thought this was going to mess it up.
And then and just to finish 1 second about how we will continue, how Luma will continue with the 89 plus. We will host next weekend in Zurich, a panel, and as to complement also the idea of the Luma Foundation, we will do a panel about resources and the planet, also with the collaboration and with the impact that this young generation can have in dialogue with people who are real environmentalists. So this is in Zurich. I'm seeing my Swiss friends here. This is in Zurich next weekend on the Sunday. It's a panel starting at 5. So I wanted to congratulate you and Willa for all the feedback you gave to us. We actually were able to fund 3 trips, so we also send a collaborator of the Luma Foundation with you, and I would be interested to know also how this worked on the everyday basis and what your feedback is on this trip, and what the adventure really brought to you.
I think it's kind of a strange process being on a vehicle that's moving through like a continent, not simply a country. In England, we use the trains all the time. And in America, it's seen as like kind of an archaic form of transport. But then to have all of those things occurring on the train, things that Doug had put into place, meant that it was kind of like it was its own place in transit. So it's not simply a vehicle or a vessel, it's actually it's kind of like a moving location. And then within that, to be kind of embroiled within the cogs of like the production of kind of an American epic of sorts, which is what Doug was, I guess, working towards. And to have that kind of mirrored in landscapes that I'd never seen before. I'd never been to America before this. So to have these kind of vast, never-ending horizons.
They're beautiful.
It was really like I've never had a stronger sense of displacement, but in a very positive way. Because I think part of the reason I was able to go was because thematically a lot of the atmospheres and effects that moving by train and moving across a gigantic country, I mean, the themes within that are mirrored or reflected within the work I was already making. So I took, as the starting point, the frame of reference was literally the frame of the train window. And I find it very interesting that creates kind of a separation. There's something beyond the train that's half stationary, half moving, and that's the landscape, and it creates this immense feeling of kind of kinetic potential. But because the body is maintained in stasis aboard the train, so your kind of desire is also held kind of incarcerated in a way. There's a I think it's Michel Descoteaux quote from The Practice of Everyday Life, where he says that traveling by train is like a moving incarceration, but that also it's the liminal space between what's occurring in the exterior environment and what's happening to the body as it moves through it in this kind of incarceration that allows ideas to be born and allows perceptions to be transformed. And that was kind of what I found as we traveled.
Yes. Yeah. So you were, that's great. And you did some images and projects on the train, but at the same time, I guess, I don't know if we explained what the project was. I think you did in your introduction. Everybody knows about this epopee throughout America from east to west.
It's kind of like the route we took was kind of like the shape of the plough constellation. I thought.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's been very much documented online, and it seemed really interesting also for the Luma Foundation to see how this could look through the eyes of Willa and you. And you see some images.
These are photographs that Willa took.
Of Willa's images while she was on this trip.
Right, I think it's also good to mention that thanks to Luma's support, you and Willa were able to produce the work that you actually were shooting while on the train, and then were able to exhibit it in Oakland in sort of a makeshift exhibition space, which actually brings us to Willa, who was recommended to us by Dina Iago, who is part of K-Hole and who is going to talk after this. And I think it's a good way to also circle back to what you were talking about earlier, as per how do we meet all the artists for the 89 Plus project, actually not only the artists, but also the writers, the entrepreneurs, the technologists, the mathematicians, the theorists. Lots of people are recommended to the project by people such as Dina, but also by many of our friends who are in the room and the advisors who are listed in the marathon program. But there is also, and very importantly, this database that is hosted on 89plus.com. This is the occasion for us to encourage everyone here in attendance to actually upload information about their work or encourage their 89 Plus friends to do so.
Great. Thank you also very much. Many, many thanks to Maja, to Felix. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.